Hello, I am here with Hadley Hempel, Vice President of Marketing in the technology industry. Hadley, I'm so happy that you're here.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You just finished an amazing transformation in the Resilient Transformation Program, and I think others are going to be extremely inspired by your story. And so, to start off, I always like to start by asking, Hadley, what were the challenges that you were facing before you enrolled inside the Resilient Transformation Program?
hmm So I'll just talk a little bit about the long-term background is that I've been someone who, for the majority of my life, has struggled with anxiety, bouts of depression. I've always managed to be very highly functional at work, but that has come at a cost of a deep amount of stress that would also trigger these other mental health challenges throughout the course of my life. So I've tried various things over the years to counteract that. And at the point that I found this program, I was just going through a particularly challenging season of my life. I had been through, some hard stuff in my personal life, and then just a very challenging year at work. And I was finding it difficult to fight my way through the levels of stress and anxiety that I was feeling at that point.
Yeah, so it sounds like as an executive, I mean, you're a vice president, right? And I think a lot of people can have stress or anxiety in their lives and just push through it. But it sounds like at the point that you and I met, you had just come to that point where you're like, I just can't do it anymore. It's starting to take a toll. Was it taking a toll on you personally? Was it taking a toll on you physically? Was it taking a toll on the way that you slept?
Yes, absolutely. All of those things. And I'll say this, I'm a person who I love my job. I love my career path. I love what I do. I've always been very close with my teams at work. And so you know, it wasn't a matter of, a particular job being difficult. It's just that, yes, when you're in an executive type of role, these jobs, kind of regardless of your career path, I think come with an inherent amount of stress. You have a lot of responsibility. You have a lot of responsibility to other people, especially when you're in a leadership role that can impact other people's jobs and, thereby their livelihoods and their families. And I do feel very responsible for my teams in that capacity. So, when I get into periods of extreme stress in the context of my work life, that very quickly bleeds over to impact, my personal relationships. But I would also say more so than that, the toll that I usually feel the most is on my physical and my mental health. And I tend to find it difficult to exercise self-care at the level that seems to be necessary when my work stress gets really, really high.
Well, it sounds like you've been dealing with this for quite some time. And so, what have you tried in the past to fix the problem, and what were the results?
hmm all kinds of different things. So I will say transparently that I see a therapist every month. And as someone who has dealt with mental health challenges over the years, I am an advocate of doing that. So I don't believe that there is a one size fits all everything, solution for folks who are dealing with those types of challenges. I have been on different kinds of medication over the years. Some of them have been helpful, some of them have not been helpful. But what I've come to realize after going through all of that, and then I'll say I've tried other things as well, including, I've worked with a life coach in the past. I have been very focused the last few years in trying to ramp up the amount of exercise that I do, and that is definitely helpful. But all of those things, I would say on a one-off basis, they're not a comprehensive solution. And so I had never found anything that seemed to work at the level I needed it to work at consistently over a long period of time. And I will also say that certain things, like in particular exercise, it's very, very easy to fall off of an exercise program when you're in a busy season at work. At least for me, and I think for a lot of other people, exercise is the first thing that tends to go. And so if you're reliant on exercise as your primary form of stress relief, that just, at least in my experience, doesn't always work out. I think that it's a great addition and everyone should do that to take care of themselves, but it has not been the magic pill for me in that sense. And so at the time that I found this program, I was really in need of something that would connect the dots across, my mental and physical health and help me deal with stress in the moment, and not just, when I found 30 minutes or an hour to go out and exercise, because you can't always do 30 minutes of exercise right before you're going to walk into a board meeting or an executive meeting, or even just, the stress of your day to day. You can't necessarily carve out 30 minutes between meetings when something, crazy is happening at work. So I had really never found anything that would help me deal with the stress in the moment.
So what was different about this program? What was different that brought it all together for you?
Well, I will say, and we can talk more about this, I felt the results of this program very, very quickly. I mean, within even a week, I was feeling things turning around for myself in a very significant way. But I think the biggest difference for me about this program is that I felt like it put me in control of my own situation. If you're using exercise or you're using therapy or you're using medication, again, those things can all be helpful, but I never felt like I had a tool where I was empowered to take charge of my stress as it was happening. And so that, I think, is the biggest difference for me in this program versus other approaches I've tried.
Well, you had some really incredible results. So incredible. We just actually went through some of the things that you had accomplished in here of increased productivity, really being a creator of your life. It's like you got out of survival and got into creation. So, can you share with people what were some of the main things that you got out of this? What is different about your life now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, several very significant things just in the course of the last few months. First and foremost, I think that the most immediate result that I felt within the first couple of weeks of the program was just feeling in control of my life and feeling in control of my emotions and my stress level. And I was able to very, very quickly apply the things that I learned from the program in stressful moments at work, in meetings where I normally would have been, overwhelmed or flustered or, anxious. I was just able to implement and start to feel calmer in those day-to-day situations. And then what I found over time, over, just a couple months, is that reducing that day-to-day stress enabled me, I think you just said it, Julie, to move from a state of being in survival mode, if you will, to a state where I felt like I was almost manifesting the things that I wanted for myself in my life. And then those things started to fall into place. So I actually ended up having a really great job opportunity come my way. And so I've gotten a new job just within the last month, which is wonderful. And I'm very excited about that, and already, feeling like it's a good move for my career. And also, I had been about a little over a year ago, I had gone through a pretty difficult breakup. And it took me a while to feel like I wanted to get out and start dating again, but I was able to do that. And I've met someone that I've been dating for several months, and that's going very well. So, those are some very significant life changes. And then there are smaller things, or not even smaller, but just things that I notice in my everyday. I feel a lot more positive. I can feel that my mental state is a lot more positive. I use a lot more positive terminology when I'm talking to myself in my head. I don't go negative the way that I used to, which was always a challenge for me in the past. And I think that has just it's made me feel lighter overall. Like I don't have the weight of the world on me anymore.
Thank you for sharing that. You've got so many beautiful things that you're sharing, and there might be people listening to this and thinking, okay, well, how long did it take her? How often did she have to practice these
Mm-hmm.
techniques to get to where she was? So you started about 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
it was just, yeah, 4 months ago, not even quite at this point.
yeah. So, and other people might be saying, okay, well, this is great, but now she's graduating from the program. Is it going to stick? Is it going to last? How are you going to use these tools and techniques in the future?
Well, that's something that I already noticed throughout the course of the program, that it didn't take very long for the tools and techniques to become ingrained. So, the first couple of weeks, I was having to be pretty intentional about sitting down and making time and doing proactive practice. But now there are moments where, I'll be driving along in my car and I'll start thinking about work or thinking about things in my personal life. And in these moments where I could potentially start to feel anxious or start to have negativity creep in, I will catch myself now in those moments without even realizing it. And I start to use the tools and techniques that I learned in this program to really shift my mindset in the moment. So, I think for me, it's it's not like going forward, I have one big specific goal of this is how I'm going to use the program. It's more like this is something that is now integral to pretty much every part of my life, to, the way I interact with my friends and family, the way I show up at work, the way I'm trying to show up and be present for my coworkers and my team. Um, Obviously, I do have some specific goals for myself, and I think that the tools from the program are going to be very helpful to that. But this is not, I think it's important for people to understand that these tools are not about there is a singular end goal that you're trying to accomplish. This is about creating comprehensive change in your life. These are tools and techniques that are just in me now that I will use, I think, forever.
I love that you said they're in me and I'll use forever. You also said something earlier about it being ingrained. So what I'm hearing you say is that you came in one state, and that's what most people do is they come into the program in a state or baseline of anxiety or overwhelm or frustration. Their bodies are in that state. Sounds to me like what you did is you literally changed from the inside out. You've ingrained a different state of being or a different baseline from anxiety to peace and calm. And now you're able to catch yourself in your mindset. You're able to catch when your body's out of sync. So, would you say that you've completely changed your baseline from the inside out, from the way you think and the way you feel and the way your nervous system is operating?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's always more work that you can do on that. And I expect this to be, something I do for the rest of my life. But the baseline of how I felt coming into this program, the word calm was not in my vocabulary at that moment in time. And calm actually was the word that I use the most in my personal practice day to day. And now, uh, you know, I feel like I tend to operate from a baseline of feeling calm, even in moments that would potentially be stressful or anxiety inducing. Instead of just being in stress, I tend to start from a state of calm. And I even notice now when other people seem to be in a state of stress or anxiety, it's much more noticeable to me. And I I feel that I've changed my approach to communicating with other people when they're feeling that way. Even earlier today, I was chatting with some of my new coworkers, and one of them sent a message about trying to fix something or another, and I said to them, "Well, that's great, but don't put this all on yourself. I'm here to help you. Other people are here to help you, and." you know just you don't have to be in a state of anxiety about this. It is something that we are all here to work on together. So I think that I just tend to approach challenges, whether they're in my personal life or in my work life, coming from a state of calm and logic and reason, rather than a state of anxiety and stress and being very, very reactive.
What a difference. So much that you said in there. And number one is the difference between responding and reacting. You're out of reaction mode, and the way we feel has an effect on how we think and how our brain operates. And it sounds like when you're coming from that place of calm and peace, your brain's functioning better. Would you say that it's safe to say that you're making different decisions because you're in a state of calm versus a state of anxiety?
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think that and again, in my work life and in my personal life, I think I'm taking better care of myself overall because I'm coming from that more settled place in my mind and my body. And then at work, things that used to trigger me or would send me and potentially, my team into, I guess you would call it fire drill mode. I tend to not treat things as fire drills the way that I used to. And even if other people around me are having kind of that reactive type of approach, I think that I am now trying to be the person to help everyone calm down and reset.
What I really hear you saying is the compassion that you have. You can see it in other people now because you're not living in that stress and anxiety. You can recognize it in other people. And as a vice president of marketing, you're leading teams. So, how is this going to make you a more effective leader?
Well, for one thing, I think that a leader is only as good as their team trusts them to be. I want my team to trust me, to understand that I have their best interests at heart, that obviously I am working to do the best things for the business, but also that I'm taking care of people along the way. And I think that, you know, good companies take care of their people, and that's very important to me. It always has been. And I can say that in my past, I could always feel the difference between leaders and managers who I could tell really cared about me and wanting me to be the best version of myself and wanting me to be in a good place mentally and show up well at my job as a result. And I want to create that type of safe environment for the teams that I'm working with now and in the future.
Wow. This came at such a good time because you're starting a new job in just about a week and a half, and having these tools and techniques to stay calm and give this to your team and create that level of trust is such a big win for you and for the company and for the people that are going to be working with you. And just to watch your transformation in this program has been absolutely amazing. You really did the work. And you can't come into something like this and just expect to get information. It's really transformation. And so a lot of people might be going, wow, this sounds like an amazing journey that she's been on, but how much time did it take? I'm a busy executive. Am I going to have time to do this? So can you let them know, what did it take for you to have this transformation in 4 short months?
Yeah, it really, I feel like the time commitment was not, it really wasn't all that much. It's also a little bit of you get out what you put into it. But, we did a once a week group call, which I personally found that to be one of the best aspects of this program, having, group support and accountability. That's always something that's worked well for me in the past. And so it's been really nice to meet the other folks in the program. And I think that we all relate really well to what one another are going through. So that's been something that I've just really looked forward to every single week. And then outside of that, and then my one-on-ones with you, Julie, I did not find it difficult to squeeze my practice into my day. There were moments where I would sit down and just practice some of the techniques that I was learning for 1 or 3 or 5 minutes in between meetings in the middle of my day. And in terms of the course material and the learning, because all of that is available online and it's in the academy, I completed a lot of the training modules just when I was sitting, scrolling on my phone at night. It wasn't like I would carve out, I'm going to sit down and study for 2 hours. I would, read and complete a module here and there wherever it was able to fit into my day or my evening.
Yeah, so it sounds like it just really flowed. It fit into your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Did,
Mm-hmm.
did you notice that during the time that you were doing this, that you would learn, the first week you would learn one technique, then the second week you would learn another, and then it would stack on top of each other? And then would you notice that, oh, as I'm practicing these, I'm feeling more calm. I'm really watching my mindset. Would you find that
Mm-hmm.
you started saving time and that your productivity increased because you kept applying these tools and techniques and it just got easier and easier?
Yes, absolutely. And that has been one of the biggest impacts that the program has had for me is, I used to struggle a lot when I would start to feel anxious and overwhelmed about, having a lot to do at work, having a bunch of stuff in my personal life that was kind of on the back burner because I was busy at work. And sometimes it would send me into almost a state of mental paralysis where I would have to fight really, really hard to sit down and work on projects, and especially bigger picture strategic projects. It would be very, very hard for me to get to that mental place to focus on it and just knock it out. And the techniques that I've learned in this program have really helped me to where now I tend to I tend to really notice immediately when I'm starting to feel in a state of overwhelm or stress. And even just this weekend, I had a good example. I was, trying to get my house ready to have some people over for a holiday party. And I was feeling very, very overwhelmed about the cleaning and the errands and going to the grocery store and all the things that you have to do to get ready for something like that. And as soon as I realized it, I said, no, you're going to take a time out. You're going to do your practice for 5 minutes. And, by the end of the 5 minutes, I felt so much better. And I was just able to get up and tackle the to-do list. And it wasn't a big deal at all. And that happens to me regularly now with, personal life tasks and with work tasks. There are a number of things that I really have been able to tackle in terms of projects recently that, you know, not just would have been hard to get started on, but I've knocked them out in a lot less time than I ever thought that I would, because I was able to just have a laser focus once I got started. And I definitely attribute all of that to the tools and techniques that I've learned in the program.
What would you say percentage wise has your productivity gone up?
Significantly. I mean, really probably 100% or more on some days. There's Yes, it has been completely game changing is what I can say about that.
I thought it was really interesting too, as we were wrapping things up with your last one-on-one. One of the things that you put down for your goals for 2023 were is really about having an abundant, beautiful, balanced life. It was about creating this balance. And so it sounds like with the tools and techniques that you have learned inside this academy, it got you to that place of peace and calm. It got you
Mhm.
to that place of balance. And so now you can create from a place of really just having an exponential life in a whole different way. And
Yes.
I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this because I hear this all the time from people that says, just say, I wish I had more energy. Would love to have more energy. Can you talk a little bit about how your energy increased during this program?
Yes, my energy level has definitely been substantially better. Some of that I would attribute to sleeping better. I've had challenges with sleep throughout my life, which I would track back to anxiety kind of churning in my head. So I think that again, all of these things start to compound and you sleep better and then you wake up feeling more refreshed. I found myself waking up earlier in the morning without an alarm clock having to go off, and feeling like it's a lot easier to just go and get my day started. I'm not, dragging in the morning um and then also just if there are moments where I'm feeling a little bit like tired or sluggish, like again, I'll do my practice and I'll employ some of the techniques and it usually does help me to feel refreshed and energized and just ready to go and tackle the next part of my day.
What a transformation from 100% productivity gain, having energy, sleeping through the night, managing your internal dialogue. It's just such a pleasure. And I'll just say, Hadley, you showed up and you did the work. You were resourceful, you were coachable, and most importantly, that you were committed. You were very, very committed. And as people can hear, you didn't spend a lot of time doing this. You just used the step by step formula. You started to layer and stack them on top of each other. And you had exponential growth and just an incredible transformation. And so,
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, thank you to you, Julie, for being a great coach, number one, and also for providing great structure and organization in the context of this program, because that's one of the reasons that it felt easy to me was that you were very encouraging, and also because you have things set up so well and it's so organized and structured that it, it's just easy to get through the program without having to, I did not have to project manage it for myself, the way that you might have to with other things. Like again, with an exercise program, a lot of times you're having to really set that up for yourself and motivate yourself to go to the gym or what have you. And the way that you have everything organized with the academy just makes it super, super easy and very user friendly.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's the goal is we like people to come in and have a great experience, not have to work hard to get it done, but have an exponential transformation, which you did. And so I just want to say thank you for being part of this academy and doing the work and being an example, because there's a lot of people out there that are very, very highly successful, highly functioning executives, but underneath they seem to be drowning. And they're just caught in the traditional ways of having to deal with stress and anxiety that aren't giving them the relief that they're looking for. So thank you for sharing your story. And is there anything that you would share with anybody out there as to how they might feel when they're done with this, if they're thinking about doing something like this that you did?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's been life changing for me, really it has. And I think that anyone who's considering this should just go ahead and do it. And I think that that's been the sentiment of a lot of people that I've gotten to know through the group as well, is that, you know, once you get in it, you don't know the ways that your life is going to change. And there's there are basic things like stress reduction, but it has gone so much further than that for me at this point. And so I think that there are kind of endless possibilities for how your life can look with this program.
Well, that's the key is people usually come in because they're living in survival and stress and anxiety. And once you get out of that survival mode and you get the nervous system aligned, you get the mindset aligned, then you move into the creation phase. And that's the phase that you're at. And the possibilities are endless. And so I can't wait to see what 2023 brings for you and all these possibilities that you're going to create. And just thank you for being a part of this program and sharing your story.
Thank you, Julie.
It's been a pleasure.